I'd love you to share some specific techniques with the team that have been particularly effective for you in cultivating a more positive and supportive inner dialogue. What are some of the techniques that you know that help there?
I think let's talk about this at 3 levels, and one of them is the whole premise of that little voice in your head. As irrational as our internal dialogue sometimes seems to be, and all of those incessant thoughts that pop out of nowhere and keep, moving around in circles, as irrational as they sometimes seem to be, your brain is a very highly predictable computer system. Okay, it has different parts, just like a computer has a graphics processor and a main processor. We have a limbic system and a prefrontal cortex, and parts that are responsible for emotions, parts are responsible for problem solving, and so on and so forth. And in that little voice in your head, I realized, having been in both worlds, the happiness world and the technology world, that most of the younger generation of the world today know how to use their computers better than they know how to use their brains.
Yeah.
And it's quite shocking when you really think about it, because neuroscience is one way of looking at the brain, but most of spirituality has tried to analyze the way we use the mind, if you want, for a long time. And so the second layer to understand is, why is your brain talking to you? And what is that little voice? And I think the most interesting, eye-opening realization is that the voice in your head is not you telling you what to do. Okay?
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yes, it is. Most of us in the Western world, where we glorify our thoughts so much, we ignore the fact that if it was me telling me what to do, it wouldn't need to talk. If it was you telling you what to do, you would instinctively know what it wants to say, right? It is a simple subject-object relationship. If you really understand that you have a heart in your body that is responsible to pump blood around your body to keep you alive, it's a survival machine, right? Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I pump blood, therefore I am. Right? But we wake up and say, I think, therefore I am. We associate so heavily with those thoughts. And the truth is, they're not. Your brain is a third party, right? It's a 3-pound lump of tofu that is responsible to analyze the world around it. And like every other organ in your body, has a primary function of keeping you alive. And so it has a very high fondness of telling you what's wrong with the world, not what's right with the world. So it constantly nobody will ever see a tiger approaching them and go like, oh my God, look at how majestic that animal is, right?
Well, some may, but it won't end well.
They don't live to tell us, right? And the idea is your brain is responsible to say, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is dangerous, this is not how I want it to be. And believe it or not, that's exactly what unhappiness is. Unhappiness is a comparison between the events of your life and your expectations of how life should be, right? Your happiness is equal to or greater than the difference between your perception of the events of your life and your expectations of how life should be. You take any event and you compare them, right? And when you do, your brain is likely to tell you they're not matching because it wants to keep you safe. Now, once you realize that your brain is a third party, everything changes, because 1, you don't have to obey anymore. 2, as a matter of fact, you can argue, okay? And interestingly, like I do, you can tell it to shut up.